This is first meeting, public meeting for the market air quality campaign. And everybody in the room knows now our burning concern is burning wood down on Western Avenue. And I'm heading up my name is Mike, and I'm heading up the effort to organize the neighborhood. And we're just getting started. And it's been quite a ride, because it's I've never ever experienced so much positive response from people when I talk to them. Everybody not only seems to feel it's appropriate and important, they also have a higher degree of understanding of general environmental issues than I expected. So it's probably that the market area, the market itself is people that are a little more with it about serious issues in the general population. But so anyway, this is a PowerPoint presentation that Duff has developed. Duff Badgley is no biomass burn, and Duff has really gotten this whole thing started. He's the one that alerted us to the problem. I was completely unaware just a month ago, and after talking with Duff and doing quite a bit of research on my own, I've discovered that this is a very, very serious problem, and it's only going to get worse if we don't stop it. So I want to let Duff proceed.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Duff Badgley with No Biomass Burn. We're happy to be working with Market Air Quality. This is the information as we've developed it. Across the state, it's important to know that across the state of Washington, from Longview to Port Angeles, citizens are massing and starting with organizational meetings just like this one, and we're being successful. In Mason County earlier this year, we beat a huge transnational corporation that was going to put a massive biomass incinerator outside Shelton. And in March, you can see the headlines from the Mason Journal: adios Adage. Adage pulls out of Mason County. So it's important to know that this fight, this campaign, is operating in a context of thousands of fellow Washingtonians, and we know how to win. In Seattle, we have not one but two toxic incinerators, one planned for Pioneer Square, big natural gas one, plus the one on Western by Pike Place Market. So we're going to focus on that today, but the slides will address both of them. Okay, this is a picture of the Western Avenue Seattle Steam Incinerator that is currently burning wood 2 blocks south of the market. You can see the two smokestacks, and then that's that high rise in the middle of the picture is the
2 blocks from us, 1 block from the market.
Thank you. 1 block from the market, 2 blocks from where we are right now. They are burning wood. They started burning wood in 2010, 30%, and in 2011, this year, they went to burning 80% wood. We'll see how toxic and lethal that wood burning pollution is. This is the Four Seasons Luxury Hotel, and this is a high-rise condo building. Incinerator number 1, I call it. This is already burning so-called wood waste. All right, let's keep it informal. If you have some questions, please just ask them, and I'll try to address them as we go forward. Burning wood emits more particulate matter. I'm going to call it PM than coal per unit of energy produced. You're going to hear a lot about PM today. PM kills people, sometimes very quickly. That's what we're going to learn today. The American Lung Association says short-term exposure to particle pollution can kill. PM can kill on the same day as exposure. Same day as exposure. We have long-term effects and short-term. Short-term can be the same day. In this building, I understand there's a lot of residents who are disabled and have health issues already. They are the prime targets of this particulate matter pollution. And burning wood emits more carbon dioxide than burning coal. CO2 is a leading greenhouse gas. And this is important because Seattle Steam and their developer ilk across the country, across the world, are trying to foist a big lie on us that burning wood is clean and green. It is not clean, it is not green. It is dirtier than coal. Here's the second one, a planned 50 megawatt huge incinerator. They're going to renovate this building unless we are able to stop them. 50 megawatt, $80 million incinerator off Pioneer Square. It would burn natural gas. However, the volume of it would be so great that it would be highly polluting. 207,000 tons a year of CO2, 166 tons of PM. PM from any combustion is a health hazard for which there's no safe level of exposure. It's like radiation from Fukushima. It's like dioxin. There is no safe level. So whenever you hear somebody talking about safe levels of PM, you know that person is either ignorant or lying. Health effects of PM: premature death, heart attacks, cancer, lung function changes, heart arrhythmias, chronic lung disease, higher ER admissions. Forgot to put in strokes. This is the chart that is changing the country. Focus on particulate matter. On the top column here, we have the Boardman coal-fired plant. It's the last coal-fired plant in Oregon, similar to our Alta Vista plant in Centralia in Washington, which has just been being phased out right now over a period of years. These are all the stats. This is the fuel, coal, and then we compare it here to 3 biomass plants in Massachusetts. CO2, the MW is megawatts, it's unit of energy, and TPY is tons per year. I apologize, there's a whole vocabulary of acronyms here, but you need to understand some of them to understand the threat. CO2 is carbon dioxide, NOx is nitrogen oxides that causes asthma in children, PM, particulate matter. Here are the results for the coal plant. Here are the results for the 2 wood-fired plants. Palmer is the interesting one for us. C and D means construction and debris. It's exactly what Western Avenue Seattle Steam Incinerator is burning now. 20% under particulate matter, 20% more particulate matter is emitted from burning wood per megawatt than coal. 4% more NOx, 37% more CO2. And these 3 key pollutants, CO2, NOx, and particulate matter, burning wood is dirtier than burning coal. This is the organizing cry for folks around the country. Right now, close by Pike Place Market, the Seattle Steam Incinerator is polluting our air with particulate matter emissions worse than coal. Right now. We're breathing it, folks, right here, right now. Would we allow a coal burning plant in downtown Seattle? The answer is screamingly no. Of course we wouldn't. But we are permitting something that's even worse. Absolutely even worse, because it is apples to apples here. There is a finite amount, a given amount of energy that Seattle Steam produces. The history on this goes back 100 years. The beginning of the 20th century, last century, Seattle Steam burned coal. Then they switched to natural gas. Still bad, but less bad. There is no clean combustion. We'll get into that at the end of the show. And then, starting 2 years ago, they switched to burning wood, which is worse than what they were burning 100 years ago. Burning wood is dirtier than burning coal. How many tens of thousands of people live and work within a few blocks? How about the clients and staff at the Pike Place Child Care Center, Pike Place Senior Center, Pike Place Medical Clinic, and the Downtown Food Bank? All in this neighborhood. How about vendors and clients? in the market itself.
Hey, Duff, if you're talking about nanoparticles, especially really small particles, there's no HVAC system that would filter those out, right? So
That's correct. Thank you for anticipating the next slide. Thank you. All right, here's another acronym for you. PSCAA, Puget Sound Clean Air Agency, right here in Seattle, is the permitting agency working to make sure that Seattle Steam continues to operate and pollute and threaten us. This is a quote from them from April 29th. This is the best definition of particle pollution I've ever seen. It comes from two sources: burning fossil fuels, which would be the plant they want to build down by Pioneer Square, and organic matter, which is wood, which is what they're burning now. So you got fossil fuels and you got organics. Both are loaded with particulate matter. According to PSCAA, asthma, heart disease, strokes, cancer, even death. This is the agency that is working right now to renew for another 5 years the permit to allow Seattle Steam to operate. And there's zero chance that unless we intervene with serious political pressure, there is no chance that the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency won't rubber stamp another 5 years of burning wood. Yet we are stonewalled on Seattle Steam PM. Here's a quote that I got an email from a couple of weeks ago, July 6th, from Brian Renninger at the PSCAA. I said I wanted to get real world data on what Seattle Steam PM emissions were. And guess what? Seattle Steam has not reported PM10 or PM2.5 data for the years 2008 or 2010 or ever. I only asked go back to 2.10. And the reason why? Well, it's Regulation 1, Section 7.09A. I'm sure you're all aware of that regulation. What we're up against is permitting agencies around the state and around the country colluding with the polluters to maximize pollution and minimize cost. These agencies do not protect the people. These agencies exist to protect the polluter. We must take that in and act on it. Otherwise, we will be steamrolled for another 5 years. Should we believe Seattle Steam? Should we believe PSCAA? Is this another example rampant across the state of industry cooking emissions data when they're allowed to self-police? 3 lawsuits have been filed right now on this data abuse issue. Longview, Port Angeles, Port Townsend. Right now, I'm involved in all 3 lawsuits based on the fact that the industry polluter in these 3 cases have been allowed to report their own emissions data, and they cook it, they alter it so badly, so egregiously, that we're taking them to court. We contend it's illegal what they're doing. And we know, regardless of what they claim, we know PM from any combustion is a health hazard with no safe level of exposure, according to the American Heart Association, the EPA, and Washington Ecology. Impeccable credentials all agree there's no safe level of PM. PM data is missing, but Seattle Steam switched to burning 30% wood fuel in 2010, started burning 80% wood fuel in 2011. Thanks for Mike for researching this. So they only ramped up to 80% of wood fuel during this year. And guess what? Pike Place market neighbors started noticing an increase in respiratory problems in 2011. And Pike Place market neighbors started noticing unusual dust collecting in their apartments. When? In 2011. Gee. And Puget Sound Clean Air Agency has no air monitors near Pike Place Market or Pioneer Square. Thank you, Dorley, for finding that out. So we have where's the closest?
At 9th and Boren.
The nearest air monitor to monitor the pollution that is actually in the air, real world, real time, is at 9th and Boren, nowhere near these incinerators downtown. So there is no way to measure. We have been stonewalled, folks. Welcome to the crowd of outraged public air breathers who are confronting the monolithic industry-government partnership to continue polluting our air with our tax dollars. If you're not outraged, maybe you don't understand the situation. Burning wood is dirtier than burning coal. This is a TransAlta plant with Mount St. Helens, lovely in the background. This will be phased out. There was a huge statewide national effort to close this plant down. Why? Because it's coal. Everyone knows that coal is dirty. Wood is dirtier than burning coal. Here's a quote from the American Lung Association, page 42 of 204. First and foremost, short-term pollution, short-term exposure to particle pollution can kill, get this, deaths can occur on the very day the particle levels are high. These are deaths that would not have occurred if the air were cleaner. Scary. The same day. Particulates, there's three kinds. In descending order of size and ascending order of threat. PM10 is a lesser health hazard. When you see accelerating up a hill with a black cloud of smoke belching out the tailpipe, that's probably high in PM10. PM2.5 is much smaller, a major cardiovascular pulmonary health hazard, and PM ultrafiner nanos, Kevin, here we go. The major health hazard, especially for children, as reported in thousands of medical articles in the last 4 years. This slide was prepared by my colleague from Cambridge, Massachusetts, Dr. William Sammons, who has largely given up his own private medical practice in Massachusetts and hurled himself for the last 2 years nonstop at educating people around the country about how lethal the threat from biomass combustion emissions are. Our bodies cannot stop nano PM. The smallest are so minute, they go into our lungs and they pass through our lungs alveoli into our bloodstream, where they attack our bodies systemically. Whoa. Whoa. And, according to Dr. Sammons, we have no defenses in our bodies to stop the nano PM. Our blood-brain barrier, as you know, is a really effective barrier to isolate our brain from the rest of the toxins in our body. The blood-brain barrier cannot stop nano PM, nor can the placenta. Pregnant women and fetuses are at high risk from particulate matter. According to the EPA, this is their chart, premature death from PM, heart attacks, lung function changes, arrhythmia, premature death again, lung cancer, chronic lung disease, decreased lung function, premature death, long-term and short-term exposure to PM. The EPA agrees PM is a killer. Will this be you? And the Seattle region is one of the most polluted in the USA for PM 2.5, which is the mid-level. This is a quote from Olympic Region Clean Air Agency, or ORCA, in April of this year. They combined, the ALA, American Lung Association State of the Air for this year, combined Olympia, Tacoma, and Seattle into one metro area and ranks it as the 18th most polluted area in the country for PM 2.5. Our baseline is already high. What does that mean? When we have our lungs and are forced to endure another assault, that the results will be magnified. We're not starting from a pristine environment here. According to the ALA, these are the people who will suffer most. Children, adults 65 years and older, that's me. People with lung disease, diabetics, people with cardiovascular, people with low income, healthy adults who exercise or work outdoors. If you ride your bike, this is how evil particulate matter is. If you ride your bike to get your exercise so you won't pollute the air with your car, you're at high risk of PM poisoning. If you're a cyclist, and there's a lot of cyclists in Seattle, a huge issue in cycling around the world right now is how to ride your bike in city traffic without exposing yourself to really high levels of particulate matter. It's a huge issue. PM attacks our kids. PM kills kids. This is absolutely chilling. This is not association. Causal relationship between particulate and respiratory death from 28 to 365 days. PM kills newborns. PM kills newborns. And that's what Seattle Steam is proposing to do. Danger, permits not protective of human health. I want you to walk away from here with no faith in the permitting process, because you should have none. It exists to protect the polluter. This is from Dr. Sammons. the permit process inadequately regulates PM 2.5, and it doesn't regulate at all PM ultrafines or nano. They're completely unregulated, folks. Seattle Steam doesn't have to report the nano PM.
What's the benefit to this agency rubber stamping this permit? Do they pay huge like fees or something, Seattle Steam, or what? Like why is this just being overlooked? Is it a money issue like it normally is, or?
The question is, why do the permitting agencies rubber stamp the applications for the polluters? It's an excellent question. I honestly don't think that it's a financial motivation. It's built into the culture. In order to advance and have job security, you basically shake the hand of the polluter.
I'd like to suggest also that the people that write the legislation and the guidelines, they're either the industry or they are funded through campaign donations by these interests that make the money.
That's true. Thank you, Mike.
So that's what establishes the institution.
It's true. Yeah, Dorley.
Also, his trips abroad to view clean and up-and-coming energy. Our city council people go to Sweden, they go other places to look at the technology there and think they know all about green energy now when they really don't. The guy who pays for it, maybe the CEO of Seattle Steam.
Thank you, Dorley. Dorley, let's name names. City Council member Mike O'Brien was gotten to early on after his swearing in January of 2010 by Seattle Steam, who accompanied him on a trip to Sweden under the clean air umbrella, the phony clean air umbrella. And Mike O'Brien is perhaps our most environmentally aware city council member. So you can see the tentacles of industry colluding with and corrupting our elected officials. But it's an excellent question. And Mike is also right to suggest that the laws, the regulations, were written by industry. You know, it's worth knowing that it was under Richard Nixon the EPA was created. And Nixon was not an environmentalist. You know, I was arrested at his White House in 1972 against the war, and I have no love for Richard Nixon. He created the EPA not to create a safer America, but to safeguard the industry. So from the beginning, many of our environmental safeguards are not safeguards at all, but protection for the polluter. And here's another important fact. The PSCA limits for Seattle Steam are based on data last revised in 2006. They're 5 years out of date. 5 years out of date. Okay, another slide from Dr. Salmons. According to these groups, the permit process provides inadequate protection from PM, American heart, American lung, American cancer, more than 70,000 physicians, and the Washington State Department of Health. This is a dense slide, but this is a letter sent in 2006 from the Washington State Health Department to the EPA in DC, and it said there is either no threshold or a threshold well below the standard proposed. We urge EPA to revise the current proposed standard of the so-called permittable level of particulate matter, and they wanted an air quality standard that was truly protective of public health, because they said the public health is being jeopardized by the allowable levels of particulate matter. This is in 2006. What has happened to make it safer for the public? Nothing. The standards we have in effect in 2011 are the same as they were in 2006. Industry cannot stop nano PM. This is from the Air and Waste Management Association and Industry Trade Magazine. They admit there is no technology to stop the nano PM. So the permits won't stop it, our bodies can't stop it, nor can technology stop it. What's the answer to stopping a nano PM? Don't burn. The only answer is no combustion. And here in Seattle, alone among the major cities in the US, we have an alternative. 1 PM source is all it takes. This is a study from the 90s in Utah where they tracked hospital admissions related to the industrial activities of a nearby steel mill. When the steel mill was going full tilt, hospital admissions up. When the steel mill backed off, so did hospital admissions. Cause and effect. All right, we have a Seattle steam PM double whammy here. More PM from burning wood than burning coal would admit right now, close by Pike Place, Four Seasons, all the service provider agencies. And here's Pioneer Square. Here's that looming smokestack that's been there since 1893. This is shot from First and Yesler. 166 tons a year. No safe level now. 166 tons a year they want to produce. And we'll get more into strategy about that at another meeting. 166 tons a year, 1 block from the Coleman Dock Ferry Terminal. You can see the Smith Tower to the right, the smokestack to the left, just beyond the Alaskan Viaduct. You can see all 3 smokestacks of Seattle Steam as you come into Coleman Ferry Dock. Dead ahead is the one by Pioneer Square, a little bit to the north, to the left of the 2 that we're fighting on Western Avenue. It's a PM double whammy. Seattle Steam wants to turn downtown Seattle into a lethal pollution zone if they get their way. We're not going to let them do it. But PM emissions are not the only threat. I'll go over this quickly about the CO2 issues, because it's important to understand, because Seattle Steam is hiding behind this sign. They justify all this pollution by saying they go green. This is a false statement. They know it's false. So when you knowingly make a false statement, are you lying? You sure are. The CO2 double whammy. From the Pike Place Market one, we have more CO2 from burning wood than burning coal. They don't have to report the CO2, incidentally. And from the proposed incinerator Pioneer Square, more than 200,000 tons of CO2. These incinerators are killers at every level, local through the PM, global through the CO2. And here's a stat that a lot of people don't know. CO2 is not just a climate pollutant, it exacerbates medical conditions caused by other pollutants. Here's the CO2 again, the chart showing, compared to the Bourbon coal plant, 37% more CO2 on the construction and debris plant. Worse than coal for CO2. Biomass burning is not carbon neutral. This is the fundamental fact that the Seattle Steams of the world don't want us to understand. It's so simple that I'm embarrassed to have to tell it to you, but it's necessary because of their big lie. Burning releases the CO2 stored in wood in minutes, but it won't be resequestered for centuries. This is a quote from the EPA. Half the CO2 released today from any source, doesn't matter what source, CO2 is CO2 is CO2. About half will be taken up by the oceans and terrestrial vegetation over the next 30 years. That's actually gotten worse now because of the soaking into the ocean of all our CO2. Further 30% will be removed over a few centuries. The last 20%, many thousands of years. This is the EPA. The carbon emissions from Henry Ford's first Model A are still circulating. Doesn't go away. This is the best quote that I've seen. It's from Kevin Bundy, senior attorney for Center for Biological Diversity. There is no physical, chemical, or climate-forcing difference between fossil CO2 and biogenic CO2. There's a huge, huge political debate going on right now. The EPA is caving to industry pressure right now. And I met with Cantwell staff 2 days ago, and we're trying to launch an initiative through Cantwell. Good luck. She has bad record on bio issues. Biomass is worse than burning coal. A year ago, in June of 2010, the Manomet study came out, commissioned by the state of Massachusetts, that revolutionized things. State of Massachusetts passed new laws because their study came out and said that biomass is worse than burning coal. And so they passed new regulations in Massachusetts that killed 5 planned biomass incinerators. And our colleague in Boston, Dr. Mary Booth, says that even as good as the Manomet study was, it underestimates the carbon impact of bioenergy plants. In February of this year, we had 3 of the world's most prominent prominent climate scientists, Tim Sertinger, Mark Harmon, and Bill Moomaw, write a letter to the Washington state legislature, not just any state legislature, ours, because Washington policy on biomass and Washington law on biomass is so outrageously bad that it's become the focus of the world. That's how horrible Washington state biomass law and policy is. Here it is, a quote from these three scholars. Burning biomass emits 150% the carbon dioxide of coal, 150% more CO2, and, italics in the original, simply declaring biomass to be carbon neutral does not make it so. Washington law right now is Alice in Wonderland stuff. It says that when you burn wood, you must report the CO2 emitted from it, but you don't count it as a greenhouse gas. What? It makes no sense. It's Alice in Wonderland. That's Washington state law that we're trying hard to change. Why? Greed, not need. Already the Pioneer Square incinerator has been awarded $18.75 million to Seattle Steam. It would generate 50 megawatts of electricity, but where is the local demand? In Chelan, we have a glut of hydropower right now because of all the rain, all the water going down the Columbia. In March of this year, the Chelan PUD auctioned off 4 years of excess hydropower. So they want to build this plant not to meet any local need. They're doing it to get the big profits and big subsidies while we get the big pollution. Here's what we thought about that issue in Shelton. Corporate welfare. All these plants are springing up right now in response to massive federal subsidies. Our goals. Incinerator number 2, stop it now. What's the time frame? Now. Now is when we got to organize. See, incinerator number 1, which is the one just 2 blocks from here. Stop, our first goal is stop burning wood now. As Mike has said, we have a window during the summer to exert extreme political pressure on Seattle Steam, PSCAA, and the political structure of Seattle to force them to stop burning wood now. Because in the fall, late summer, early fall, they will issue a 30-day public comment period, which means the fix is in. And we will be stuck with, unless we appeal it legally or force them to withdraw their burning wood, we will be stuck with it for another 5 years. So we need to organize right now, July, August, and September, or be stuck for 5 more years of burning wood and all the pollution. Our long-term goal, and this is no biomass burns goal, is to convert the 200 client buildings served by Seattle Steam. Seattle Steam provides steam heat, massive amounts of water used. They provide steam heat to a lot of buildings in downtown and First Hill. Virginia Mason, Benaroya, Seattle Art Museum, all heated by Seattle Steam. And get the irony about Virginia Mason, a hospital dedicated to saving lives and healing illness, being heated by a massively polluting plant downtown, 2 blocks from here. So you got a closed loop. Seattle Steam makes them sick. Virginia Mason gets to heal them. Yes, sir?
No.
Oh, yeah? Okay. But we have an alternative here. Seattle City Light, a public nonprofit utility, unlike for-profit Seattle Steam, family-owned, owned by an Illinois family, is 91% hydro, radically lower in emissions. We have an alternative here. Doesn't it make sense to convert those 200 buildings to electrical heat, hydropower? Seattle Steam is not going to like that because that means they go out of business. We've got a fight on our hands. Conservation and contraction. People ask me all the time, what alternative energy source do I favor? I don't favor any alternative energy source. I favor conservation and contraction. The rule of thumb is that you can save 30% of energy with heat loss from buildings, any type of building, residential, commercial, or government. 30% savings. On top of that, 10% energy savings can come from phantom energy, which is leave your computers plugged in at night, leave your TVs plugged in, your copy machines plugged in. Phantom energy accounts for 10% of all energy consumed in the United States, just because we're sloppy. The combined conservation and contraction can generate 40% more energy. We don't need to develop alternative energy sources. We are chasing this wild goose to which is a mirage, because all alternative energy sources have downsides. There is no downside to conservation. There is no downside to contraction. We're doing it to fuel corporate greed and government subsidies. Our tax dollars are being used to poison us. Take that in. Our tax dollars are being used to poison us. It's an outrage. Join us now. In Mason County, we did everything. We had street protests, stormed government hearings, lawsuits, headlines in the newspapers. Don't lower property values. Key issue here in Seattle. Billions of dollars of downtown real estate values are threatened under public disclosure law by these lethal incinerators. If you're in a high-rise condominium building and you pay $3 million to look at the view, and you got Seattle Steam smokestacks right across the street from you, and you go to sell it and you fail to disclose that you're right next to this highly polluting incinerator, new condition, starting in 2011, they're burning wood, then you've broken the law. On the other hand, if you disclose it, you're not going to get a buyer for your $3 million condo. It doesn't decrease your property value, it eliminates it. When you can't sell your property value is zero. You're stuck breathing that particulate matter pollution. How you can help. These are some of the communities where we need leaders. Real estate, we talked about it, billions of dollars threatened. Business, downtown businesses in and out of the market will suffer as the public becomes aware of the health threat from Seattle Steam. It's a tough issue. Residents, like people in this building. Medical and health, there are so many healthcare providers down here. Politicians, Seattle Steam pollution is as big as the tunnel. It's a sister issue for the tunnel. Environmentalists, Seattle has a phony reputation as a green city. This issue, this campaign has the potential to change all that. And press, Seattle Steam pollution story again, as big as the tunnel. It's almost noon. Do folks have questions? I think that's my last slide. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, as far as the tax breaks, in their own literature, Seattle Steam brags, I guess, that a big chunk of their conversion to wood was financed through tax breaks, federal tax breaks, based on this technically being an economically depressed area.
Mm-hmm.
So they were paid to poison poor people.
Yeah, and it's a good point. The federal subsidies, as Mike points out, it's not limited to federal. There's state and local subsidies. In the plant that we beat in Mason County, between federal and state, they would have received $125 million of subsidies, and they would have generated 25 jobs. That's $5 million a job. $5 million of taxpayer money for jobs. Dorley?
The tunnel will create 400 jobs. The cost will be about $6 billion.
So 400 jobs for the tunnel divided into $6 billion cost. I don't have my calculator, but that's an astronomical figure per job.
Yeah,
You're right.
You pay the people that much and they don't need a job.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're getting they're getting all this wood from like construction sites and things like that, scrap basically. It's probably full of nails and glue and paint. And
impregnated with asbestos, all kinds of toxic chemicals that they've been exposed to. There's no way to eliminate that. And when you burn it up. You're right about the nails. They found they're had initial technical problems of feeding the wood, construction debris into their burner because of the nail issue. You know, they didn't know what to do with it all. I think they would have anticipated that. There is no clean construction wood. There is none. Also, I'm a tree activist in Seattle trying to save our urban forests. When a tree is bulldozed or cut down in Seattle to make way for anything, very likely that tree is going to be burned in Seattle steam. And the tree, in addition to absorbing over its life tons of CO2, has absorbed every other pollutant in the city. It's sequestered it, and so when you burn it, you release this toxic brew, including dioxin, the most carcinogenic chemical that EPA has ever researched.
Just a story in the paper the other day about a Native American tribe going to cut about 60% of their forest for biofuel.
Yeah, the question is about cutting our forests to fuel these incinerators. It's true, it's a huge issue all around the world and here in Washington and in our campaigns. In the case of Seattle Steam, they're not putting direct pressure, they're not clear cutting forests to burn in their incinerator. However, they are promoting, they are giving a financial incentive to take down trees in the city. It's very true. Very true. Yeah, Fred.
Two questions. The first is, what percentage of particulate matter in the air right now comes from automobile traffic, from the port, from ships, from other sources? I mean, if the particulate matter coming from that one smokestack is 1% of what we're breathing, you got a hard case, saying, oh, it's the danger. If it's 50%, that's another matter.
You need to expand your question to define we, because we right here is different from we a mile away. So we right here, it's much higher from that source.
Because the smokestack is right there.
Yeah.
You raise the question is, what percentage of particulate matter pollution comes from Seattle Steam smokestack and what comes from other sources? The answer is I don't know, and we are frustrated in trying to find out that because Seattle Steam and PSCAA won't release any data about PM. Further, we don't have any downtown air monitors. And further, even if there were downtown air monitors, you couldn't identify the particulate matter by source, except you could segregate it according to size. It is true, any combustion source releases PM, but it's a question of reaching a critical mass, and stationary sources are much easier, theoretically, to regulate than mobile sources. All the transportation sources of PM, it's a devilishly hard time to try to regulate that. I'm a car-free person, car-free advocate, and I'm really sensitive to that issue. But stationary sources are stationary. They're right there. And you can apply whatever pollution control technology you can, and if that is inadequate, as we know it will be for nano PM, then the only answer is to shut it down. There is alternative. Right now you could argue there's no really good alternative to the transportation sources. However, there is a great alternative to Seattle Steam, and that is electrical heat funded from hydropower from Seattle.
Conservation, as you said, is
Conservation, absolutely. There's no need. Seattle Steam is a dinosaur from the 19th century with no place in the 21st. No place.
I want to offer another answer. I think the answer that makes the most sense to the general public is that, and really is a functional answer, is that we are already breathing too much. Now, if it's just 3% more, okay, what's 3% more than too much? The load, what we've got to do is decrease the load. And we have a source right now that we know is loading the market much more than at least some other sources. And we have an opportunity to stop that source now.
Can I ask you?
That's an
Sorry
excellent.
I'm late. I just got back from seeing Dave. So.
Yeah.
He said it's a stationary source of pollution, right? And that it's hard to identify particular matter because it's all mixed in.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is a stationary source, it's got to have a footprint.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, according to weather patterns and this, so if we could get some kind of monitor to monitor the footprint,
That's right.
and outside the footprint, then you have something really to work with.
That
Now,
involves,
that's kind of hard to come up with, but if we can
yeah.
come up with that, that would really
absolutely.
be the
And
nail in the coffin, because it does have a footprint.
someone I spoke to in the market this week, he came up exactly with that.
Mm-hmm.
He says we've got to find the money, and we've got to find the test equipment, and we've got to start doing our own testing.
Well,
That's a big job.
this has become an issue in Mason County as well, and they recently, after years of battling with the Department of Ecology, got an air quality monitor near their major biomass incinerator in downtown Shelton. However, and that's a potentially a good thing, and they got real-time, particulate matter monitors. However, when you talk about air monitors, you're conceding the existence of the source of pollution. So be aware of that as a campaign tactic. You may be actually helping Seattle Steam stay in operation by saying you're going to monitor the air, but we need real data. And answer to Fred's question and expanding on Mike, that's going to occur on the very day that particle levels are high. So as Mike says, Fred, it's not crucial whether it's 1%, 10%, or 50%. We know that in downtown Seattle there are multiple sources of particulate matter pollution. And we know that all of them combining on any given day can make particle levels high. When you add another assault, that is controllable or can be eliminated, then this can occur. You can have people dying on the very same day. We need to focus on all of them, but initially it makes the most sense strategically to focus on a major stationary source. If you take one car off the road, it's not going to make much difference. If you take Seattle Steam smokestacks out of the sky, you can make a big difference immediately. I hope, speaking for Mike and MAQ for a moment, I hope that you folks can join our campaign. We need activist leaders, and we need them in the marketplace itself. We need them in the community. We need volunteers to make our campaign take it to the next level.
If you haven't signed up, please sign on. We need your name, how to reach you, email, of course, was easiest, and let us know what you are by circling the category. And there's also a space to suggest what you might be able to help with. Right now, what I need the most is help talking to people. We need to get out and talk this up as much as we can. We need to also, we need to organize more meetings. We need to have some organizing meetings, and we need to have more of these informational presentations. And then we have to do the work to get people to them. But we have a lot of people to cover in a very short time. And like somebody pointed out, we really need to go find our way to the money, because we need to have some money on our side, or people representing moneyed interests, to counterbalance the money that Seattle Steam has.
And MAQ has a website now, thanks to Kevin, marketairquality.org. No Biomass Burn is nobiomassburn.org, so you can get more information from both those websites.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, folks.